And I think there's one other thing that I wanted to cover here in Luke, and that's to kind of finish it out. And this is the Emmaus Road. The Emmaus Road is a famous narrative when Jesus has risen from the dead, and basically his disciples then are just like, Jesus died on the cross. They're all really down, down, down. And then after 3 days, he rises from the dead. And when he shows himself, some of the people see him, some of the people don't. You remember Thomas and stuff when we get into John. He hadn't seen him yet himself, and so he questions things. This Emmaus Road is two individuals, and they're walking out from Jerusalem by themselves. They've been in Jerusalem for the death of Christ, and they've heard rumors of the resurrection, but they don't know what's really going on. And so they're walking a Sabbath day out to Emmaus Road. This is about 7 miles out of Jerusalem to the west. And so they're going on this road. I've had the privilege of walking on this Emmaus Road. It's the old Roman roads. The Romans built roads throughout the empire, and those roads are so good that they're still in existence today. Many of them without potholes that they made out of slabs of stone. A really incredible road structure. This is from Luke chapter 24, starting with verse 13. It says, "Now the same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they were talking with each other about everything that had happened." Okay, this is now Jesus has died, rumors of resurrection. "And as they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them. But they were kept from recognizing him." So anyways, Jesus comes up, and Jesus is walking with them, but they don't know it's Jesus, because Jesus, kind of does something. I don't know, he's wearing a hoodie or something, but they don't know who he is and stuff, and so then he talks. So he asked them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" They stood still, their faces downcast, okay, still thinking Jesus was dead. One of them, named Cleopas, asked him, "Are you the only visitor in Jerusalem that does not know the things that have happened there in these days?" "What things?" he asked, playing stupid kind of things like, what's going on? Getting them to provide the information and things and seeing their perspective on what they're thinking. Well, it's Jesus, okay? He asked them, "What things?" he asked them. "About Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "He was a prophet." Very interesting. He was a prophet. What was their understanding of Jesus? "He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one who was going to..." Now, what was the nature of their hope? This is a really kind of neat passage because it tells us here are two Jewish people. They're describing the nature of their hope that they had for the Messiah. And so here's their hope that they describe. "But we had hoped that he was the one who was coming to redeem Israel." So the point of the Messiah was to redeem Israel, to throw off the Roman yoke, to set up the Son of David, to redeem Israel. "And what is more, it is the third day since all this took place. In addition, some of our women," now he's going to tell about some of the rumors, "and in addition, some of our women amazed us, and they went to the tomb early this morning, but they didn't find his body. They came and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive." Again, these women are reporting this stuff, so they'd heard the report, but they couldn't confirm it, so they're not sure. Did this happen or did this not happen? The body's gone. Where did these angels come from? By the way, does anybody remember in the beginning of the book of Luke? This is the last chapter of Luke. Does anybody remember the beginning of Luke? Who shows up? The angels show up at the birth of Christ, announcing, Gloria in excelsis Deo kind of thing. Glory in the beginning, the angels come and announce it to the shepherds, and now you've got angels here reported at the end of the book. They didn't find the body. They came and told us they'd seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Then some of our companions went to the tomb and found it just as the woman had said, but they did not see. But him they did not see. So now the woman's report has been confirmed. His body's gone, but they still don't know what to make of this. He said to them, now Jesus breaks in, "How foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets had spoken. Did not the Christ have to suffer these things and enter into his glory?" So then Jesus raises from the prophets this notion that the Messiah needed to suffer. That it's not just necessarily the Messiah ben David who is going to rule on the throne, but Messiah ben Joseph who is going to suffer like Joseph suffered in prison righteously and things. So now the Messiah was going to suffer. And this is possible reference to Isaiah 53, that he would bear our afflictions, our infirmities, and that he was like a lamb to the slaughter, and that he took upon us, on him, our iniquities were on him, Isaiah 53. All we like sheep have gone astray. So, and then it says this, did not Christ have to suffer these things, then enter into glory? And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in the Scriptures concerning himself. What a lecture that would have been, okay? Jesus starts with Moses. Notice he goes back to the Pentateuch. Goes back to Moses and all the prophets and explains then about the Christ. And as they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus acted as if he were going on further. But they urged him strongly, stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over. So he went in to stay with them. And when he was at table with them, so now he sits down at table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. So now you've got Jesus sitting at table, breaking bread with them, giving thanks for bread. Does that remind you of anything? It's kind of like this is the post-Eucharist, the post-Lord's Supper now, and Jesus sitting down and breaking bread with them as he had broken bread with his disciples before. And now he's breaking bread again. And so notice what happens, okay? So then he was at table with them. He took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. They asked each other, were not our hearts burning within us as he talked with us on the road and opened the Scriptures to us? Did not our hearts burn when he opened the Scriptures to us? Beautiful. Beautiful saying. They got up and returned at once to Jerusalem, where they found the 11 and those with them assembled. So you have the 11 apostles and those assembled with them, apparently more than just the apostles and stuff. It is saying, it is true, the Lord has risen and has also appeared to Simon. And the two told what had happened on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke the bread. Now, I think there's one other passage that I want to bring up, and this is down in chapter 24, verse 44. And this is interesting to hear their description. And it says this. He said to them, this is Jesus speaking now, this is what I told you while I was still with you. Everything must be fulfilled that is written in, and then he describes the Old Testament. And here's how he describes it. Everything that was a witness about me in the law, the prophets, and the Psalms. The law, the prophets, and the Psalms. And so in here in Luke chapter 24, verse 44, you have the threefold canon of the Old Testament. This is the Jewish canon. Moses, the Pentateuch, Genesis to Deuteronomy, the Torah. Then you've got the prophets, the former prophets, starting with Joshua, Judges, and Samuel's going through there, Kings. Those are called the former prophets. The latter prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, and the 12. Okay? And so you've got Moses and the prophets and the Psalms. The other section of the Old Testament is the writings, of which Psalms is the chief. Okay? Huge book, the Psalms. And so Jesus here mentions the threefold division of the Old Testament and explains to his people then they must speak these things about me in the law and the Moses, in the prophets, and in the Psalms. And he opened their minds so that they could understand the Scriptures. And so this was after the resurrection, and Jesus goes through with his disciples, through Moses, the prophets, and the writings, or the Psalms. And so that's a key passage when you're thinking about canonical studies. The Old Testament was broken into these three sections, and those three sections are mentioned by Jesus after the resurrection. Well, that finishes the book of Luke for us, and now we've got Luke done. We take a step back now. We've been looking at Matthew, Christ is King. We've been looking at Mark, the amazing suffering servant. We've looked at Luke, the perfect man, Christ growing and things in various ways. And now what I want to do is jump over from the Emmaus Road, and I'm going to jump over to another whole section here. Let me actually get out of this, come back, and get up to, we're going to go into the synoptic problem now. And what is the synoptic problem?